Right, it's Liam Scales' turn to get the 67 Hail Hail insight treatment. Who is he? How good is he? And what can he offer Celtic? That's what we're going to find out on today's video. We've actually got two guests lined up for you today. Later on, we'll speak to Celtic and Shamrock Rovers fan Sean O'Farrell. But now it's the turn of Paul from Irish Football Fan TV. Paul, how are you doing?
All good, mate. How are you?
Brilliant. It's good to have you on the channel. Tell us about Liam Scales and what he's done at Shamrock Rovers to earn this move to Celtic.
Yeah, firstly, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure. And I suppose just getting straight in with Liam. I first came across him at UCD and he was doing so well there that himself and two others moved to Shamrock Rovers. And I suppose of the three, he wasn't really looked upon as being the big one there. He kind of went a little bit under the radar, although he was still doing things with the underage setup with Ireland. But he went to Shamrock Rovers, and honestly, between playing with Shamrock Rovers and then watching them with the Ireland under-21s, I just saw a steadily growth the whole way through. And it didn't matter whether he was playing centre-back, was where I first saw him play. Then he moved out. I remember he played for the under-21s against Italy's under-21s at left-back, and he done brilliantly there against them as well. And then I suppose last season he was brought in at Shamrock Rovers when they won the league. It was kind of because of COVID. It was kind of cut short to I think it was 18 league games or 19 league games, one or the other anyway. And he was in and out of the team. Now they do have good centre backs there anyway, so he was in and out of the team. He wasn't always an automatic starter and stuff like that. And then this season he got moved to a left wing back position. And he's just excelled. He's been brilliant. He's been scoring unbelievable goals as well. So not just defensively, he's been good, but just when he gets up to the opposition's box, he can strike the ball really well. I'm not sure if you've seen some of his goals, but to be goal of the season contenders for sure. He's played in European games and not looked out of place as well. So I think for Celtic it's a real coup. I think this is a player who will continue to grow. Anybody I know that knows him, from Stephen Bradley as manager of Shamrock Rovers, I spoke to him on his last game in the European game they played there against FC Flora, and I spoke to Stephen after the game, and he was just saying that it's been brilliant watching his growth so far, and we always felt like he offered so much more from UCD. But now I think there's still more growth from him to come, which is very exciting because he's already shown so much potential. And I think that's shown that he's been brought into the Ireland squad. He was in and around the squad. He was in the 23 matchday squad yesterday. So I think that's shown how much he's grown in confidence and grown in ability in that probably the last 3 years. He's had a real growth, and I think Celtic fans should be excited. I think he might not hit the ground running straight away, but I think with time. But then again, he could turn around and surprise you and hit the ground running. You just wouldn't know. But from everybody I know and everybody I speak to, and I would know a lot in the football circles, really speak really highly of him as a man. And that's what Stephen Bradley said. As a man, he's up there with the best you'll meet. So that always bodes well. He doesn't get ahead of himself. He's an absolutely exceptional player, and he can play in a number of different positions. I hope that doesn't come back to haunt them, because we've seen players in the past where then maybe that's been a bit of a hindrance, that they can play so many different positions and they don't hold down that one position that they'd be brilliant in. I hope that isn't the case with him. I think if he's going to stay left wing back, keep him there. If he's going to stay centre back, keep him there, or vice versa. I think he can play defensive midfield as well and left back. So therefore, good positions that you might need him for. So I think it's definitely one that Celtic fans should be excited about. I know people are like, oh, he's coming from the Irish League and stuff like that, but look, Gavin Bazunu last night for Ireland came from Shamrock Rovers as well, and you look at how well he was doing, and everybody's talking about him being a world class keeper now. So and players like Seamus Coleman's come from the League of Ireland as well. So there's players like that. I could go through the squad last night. I'm sure there's more players that I'm just forgetting off the top of my head, but I definitely think Scales is someone that Celtic fans should look forward to, and I'm a Celtic fan myself, so I'm looking forward to seeing him coming in there and doing well.
You're fairly sold me on him already, mate. One answer and I'm already buzzing to see the guy playing. You described him there, I can't remember the exact words you used, but you basically said he's a player who's got better throughout his career, and he's probably got a fair bit to improve yet. Stephen Kenny actually described him as, quote, a gradual improver, and I think that kind of sums his career up so far. Is he a left back? Is that where you think he'll play at Celtic?
I don't. It depends on where Ange sees him playing. Does he see him as a centre back? Because he could play centre. I mean, he's got the build of a centre back because he's really
Where's
tall.
he best?
from watching him this season, I would say left wing back. Do you know? It's just from watching him this season. But then again, others will probably say centre back. So it is just literally what the manager, I think, is going to see with him and think that he's best, because he has so many good features about him. Like, I mean, one, he's athletic, he's tall, he's strong, he's good in the air, he can shoot, he can cross. He has so many attributes to his game that he could, like, but I think now the key thing for him, and we spoke about gradual improvement, is that he probably needs to find that one position that he can excel in that one area in which he could make himself a really, really top player and maybe a mainstay in the Celtic team, because that's obviously what everybody wants in this transfer.
Yeah, I mean, he's had interest in the past from English teams, hasn't he?
He turned down Man City, yeah.
Yeah, was this kind of move to a team like Celtic always inevitable, do you think, for Liam Scales?
Well, I think so, because I think he turned down Bristol Rovers, and I think he turned down Man City. There was a trial there for himself and Neil Ferrugia, who was one of the other guys who moved from UCD to Shamrock Rovers as well. I think that was before he went to Shamrock Rovers as well. So he had that interest, and I think he chose to go to Shamrock Rovers to play games and excel. And then I think that was the next stage for him, because again, he was in the Ireland under 21 setup, and there's so many of those players coming through now, and there's still some of them in the Celtic squad as well, in terms of your Leo O'Connor, Jonathan Afolabi and all. I know they're on loan now, but you know, he would know them and stuff like that, so he would probably spoke to them as well before going over and seeing what the setup was like and all that type of stuff, you know. And there's obviously a link between Shamrock Rovers and Celtic as well, so I think Celtic may have taken advantage of that, and rightly so for their from their point of view.
How does he compare to the likes of Afolabi, Luca Connell, O'Connor as well? I think there's someone else.
Go Flex, but I think he left. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he left. Is Scales further on in his development than these players?
That's a tough question, because I actually really think Leo O'Connor is a fantastic player, and I'm so surprised that he doesn't get into the Celtic team or squad or what it is. I think he's further along the scale than Afolabi and Luca, but I've always wondered why Leo O'Connor has never really gotten into the team. Every time I've watched him, between it being Ireland under 21s, he's been brilliant. He honestly has. So I don't know whether that's something in training or whatever. But Liam, in terms of first team appearances and stuff like that, he's been playing men's football for a few years now, so I'd probably say he would be ahead of them in the pecking order. Whereas they've kind of gone out on loans and stuff like that. They've been playing under 23 football before the loans and stuff like that. But he's had full seasons. He won the league with Shamrock Rovers. I'm pretty sure he won the FAI Cup the end of the season before that as well. So he will bring maybe a winning mentality with him as well, because of the players that he's been playing with this season and stuff. So I think I would say he's more ahead of them now, but he wasn't always. He's kind of just overtaken them in the last 2 years.
Do you think there's a snobbery attached to the Irish game, and the fact that, listen, I'm probably, if you go back to my videos from a couple of months ago, you'd probably be raging at me, because I'm probably looking at Liam Scales and I'm going, you know, left back, we are signing him, you know, from the League of Ireland. But do you think there is a bit of a snobbery towards the Irish game? When you rightly point out earlier, the players like Coleman, I remember Seamus Coleman, I think he had a trial at Celtic. I remember him playing against Celtic for a League of Ireland 11 in a pre-season tournament. There's numerous others. You know, do you think, you know, Celtic fans should maybe pay a bit more respect to talents coming out of Ireland?
I don't think it's Celtic fans mean it in a bad way. I think it's maybe a little bit more ignorance than anything. They just don't know, or they haven't seen maybe League of Ireland clubs doing well in Europe and stuff like that. Even though Dundalk were in the Europa League last year, they didn't really do themselves much favours. They were getting trounced a lot of the time. So I can understand where they're coming from in certain aspects. But I think if you do look around the Ireland squad, a lot of them have. James McLean was another one, came from Derry. Shane Long, he came from Cork City. So there is numerous others. Again, if I had the phone in front of me and I had a list of the players, I could tell you the clubs they all came from as well. Just started there. Roy Keane started in the League of Ireland, you know, as well, with Cove Ramblers, Paul McGrath with St. Pat. So there always been that kind of pathway, but it hasn't always worked for other players and stuff like that. You know, Richie Towell probably being one as well, who was at Celtic too. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's a snobbery. I'd say it's more ignorance in terms of just not knowing and not seeing maybe enough of it. But I think, as we mentioned there, like look at Gavin Bazunu last night against Serbia. He got man of the match and he was unbelievable. I was at the game and just some of the saves out of him and stuff like that. He was at Shamrock Rovers at 16. I think Shamrock Rovers are probably the best of the bunch at the moment in terms of producing players. They have a proper academy in place. So they have a really good setup there. So I think and they're trying to be a bit more professional and stuff like that. And I think that's maybe what the Celtic fans are looking at in terms of the professionalism. The second thing comes on to, can the player then excel himself? Because all those players that we've mentioned, they've gone over there, and they had a point to prove. Scales will go over, and he'll have a point to prove. So ultimately, it'll come down to that as well. You know, we know Shane Duffy went there last year, and he struggled massively. He's back to his best now. So the difference is, I think, with Scales and Duffy is, Scales is used to playing with a winning team that are pushing forward a lot more, so I think he'd be more used to it, whereas Duffy was always used to it between Ireland and Brighton and all the other clubs he was at. He was usually defending on his 18-yard box, and I think he just kind of struggled with that with Celtic. I don't know how yourself and other Celtic fans feel about him now, but I think Scales would be more of a natural fit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's definitely makes sense. Definitely promising, mate. What will Celtic fans see the first time we watch Scales? What are the obvious things in his game that will emerge?
Well, I know Celtic fans love a tackle, so I think he'll be straight in. I think he'll set the tone. He won't be afraid to get involved. He's physical. Like when he goes in for a 50-50, you'll expect him to win it 9 times out of 10. I think if he just, I don't know how he'll handle the occasion. He seems like a very level-headed guy. He's a very intelligent guy as well. He went to UCD, which is a college here, and usually that's where the brainy people go. So you wouldn't see me there anyway. But I think, look, he's a very intelligent, level-headed guy, and I think that he probably wouldn't let the occasion get the better of him. I think he might have been helped by the fact that he was at the Aviva last night, although he didn't play, but just experiencing that full atmosphere, because we've had a lot of games without fans and stuff like that. But then again, like, some players really grow when they're in front of a crowd, and some players can kind of go into their shadow a little bit, or into their shell. Sorry. So I think he will. I think he'll excite the fans. I just don't know where he's going to play for Celtic right now, so it's hard for me to judge that. I think if he's playing left wing back or left back, I think he'll hit the ground running. If he's playing centre back, he might need a couple of games just to adjust to get him back into that kind of mould of playing the centre back role, because it's obviously a lot different than playing left wing back or left back. So that would be the only thing I would say. But I definitely think Celtic fans should be excited by him. I think he offers a lot in terms of his versatility and obviously his attributes. As I said, like, he's fast, he's quick, he's athletic, but he's also physical, powerful, and he's good in the air. He'll win headers, he'll win tackles, and he can cross the ball as well. So I mean, he pretty much has everything you'd want from a modern fullback. So I'd be more pushing for him to play there, to be honest with you.
It'll be interesting to see where he does fit in. The manager, I think, when we signed Scales, commented saying that one of the main things he had going for him was his ability to play in a number of positions. And obviously you've kind of warned us against that a little bit. Perhaps get him in a position and keep him there. So it's interesting to see whether he will be like a utility player who fits in different areas. You looking forward to seeing Liam Scales at Celtic then, I take it? Yeah,
I really am, because I think if he does well with Celtic, I think he could be looking at getting called up to the Ireland squad then. I think that's been a little bit of a hindrance. Like, some players struggle to get into the national team because they're playing in the League of Ireland, and that's probably why, as you mentioned about the snobbery earlier, I think that's maybe why. Because suddenly then sometimes players get a magic flight, they call it, over here to England or wherever, just basically a move to somewhere outside of the League of Ireland, and then they're called up all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But then again, that could be based on their performances and stuff like that. But I think, I am looking forward to him, to be honest with you. And because he's such a nice lad as well, I really hope he does well, and I hope he becomes a Celtic regular and just does well for the club and helps get Celtic back where they belong, because last season was just horrific in every single way.
Yeah, I think we're all just looking forward to seeing how he fits in, because there's a bit of mystery. Is he going to be another Connell or Afolabi, and will he be?
I would hate for that to be the case. Yeah.
I get the impression he's more of he's certainly a first team signing. The club are billing it as a first team signing. He's obviously not going into the B team or anything daft like that. So hopefully he's a player who can come in and make an impact. Paul, it's been amazing having you on. People can find you on Twitter at Irish Fan TV. You're going great on YouTube as well. Do you want to give yourself a shout out at all?
Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, where we're at Irish Football Fan TV, and we've especially this week we've lots of content there from the international break, and we'll have some more stuff over the the coming weeks as usual. But yeah, no, listen, it's been brilliant being on. Thanks very much for having me, and it's nice to see other Celtic fan channels out there as well, and I hope we can link up on future stuff as well.
Okay, that was Paul from Irish Football Fan TV, but we thought we'd bring you in another voice to get even more insight on Liam Scales. Sean O'Farrell doesn't have a YouTube channel as far as I know, but he does have a Twitter account and he tweets a lot about Liam Scales, and he seems very positive about what Scales could bring Celtic. Now, Sean is a Shamrock Rovers fan, he's a Celtic fan. I was going to ask you what one of the shirts you've got on. It could be either, looking at you.
You can't really see it right now, but if I lift it up a bit, it's a Shamrock Rovers shirt. Right, I figured I could go with either or, but it seems that we're talking about Liam Scales. I figured we'd represent the Rovers today.
But you're in America.
Yes.
You're in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, been living here for the last 7 years. Born and bred in Dublin. Lived there for 36 years. And then moved over here in 2014 and been living here ever since.
Fantastic.
Currently a member of the Plowboys Celtic Supporters Club in Philadelphia. So I said I'd give them a shout out.
Well, hopefully some of them are watching and you can get some brownie points for
They've been instructed to watch and join and select the notifications and all that good stuff. So
yeah, great. I mean, we've got a huge following in Australia now, so hopefully you're helping us with the US audience as well. Right. Liam Scales, tell us about Liam Scales. As I said, I've kind of seen a lot of your tweets and you're very positive. You think that he's going to surprise a lot of people when he comes to Celtic?
I definitely do. I mean, there's a lot of negativity when it comes towards the League of Ireland and players that come out of the League of Ireland. I don't want to say that it's a snobbery, but anybody that's not familiar with the league, I can understand why they would maybe look at the likes of Liam Scales and the price that we signed him for and kind of think, well, we're Celtic. Why are we not aiming a little bit higher, a little bit better, a little bit of a higher profile, should we say? This guy has everything. He's been playing for Rovers for the last couple of years. And when he initially signed for Rovers, he signed as a left centre-back. And that's where he played for most of his career at Arklow Town, at UCD. Was on trial at Manchester City in 2019, decided that wasn't for him at the time, decided to concentrate on his studies, went back to UCD. I believe that he was player of the season for them, or certainly named in the Division 1 team of the year for that year. And then got his big move to Rovers, and he's gone up the levels ever since. We've got a lot of players at Rovers that have played international football, like Alan Manus, the goalkeeper. You've got Joey O'Brien, centre half, Graham Burke, who plays up front. This guy just doesn't look out of place anywhere. And I guess the last year and a half, 2 years, he's moved position. He's started off as a left centre back and he moved out to a left wing back role under Stephen Bradley, just because of the way he decided to set up his team. And we had a lot of cover at centre half, and moving him out that way, we didn't really know if he would take to it, but he's just taken to it with flying colours. And I'm guessing that's the reason why he's got his big move. Other people speculate, there's other reasons why he got it, the Dermot Desmond connection, all that sort of thing. But I believe from what I've been told, I don't know the guy personally, but I know some people who are in and about the club, and I believe that it was actually Damien Duff who recommended Liam Scales to Celtic. And Damien Duff has played against a couple of good defenders in his time, so if Duffer recommends a defender to Celtic, well, then I'm on board.
Yeah, I mean, that was my next question. I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, you've answered it there. Am I right in saying that, he was recommended to Celtic by Damien Duff? Paul, who we spoke to earlier, has said basically the exact same thing as you in terms of, Scales, and maybe that I think his word was ignorance towards the Irish game from a lot of maybe people in Scotland or even elsewhere. And he certainly thinks that Liam Scales will surprise people as well. Do you think he's going to be a first choice left back for Celtic?
Initially,
in time, maybe not straight away.
When he first signed, the rumours start going about that he was signing. We, as Rovers fans, because we're sitting on two chairs right now, as a Rovers fan, we don't want to lose him because he's an integral part of the team. He's such a good player. You want to build around players like that. You don't want to let them go. But when you see somebody who plays that well, and you see somebody who you just know that he can go to a higher level, I'm just glad that it was Celtic that picked him. because I know that there was a couple of English teams looking at him, certainly in the Championship. Rumours of one or two in the Premier League looking at him, Burnley and Watford, I believe. Later, like when it became kind of common knowledge that he was rumoured to be going to Celtic without anything being signed, sealed, and delivered. I'm just glad he's coming to us. We're devastated because we're losing him at Rovers, but when I flip my Celtic hat on, I'm delighted. I think initially he might need a little bit of a bedding in period, but I think he's certainly going to challenge Greg Taylor for a starting place. Maybe not initially, as I said, but once he gets in, I think it's a perfect time for him to come in, to be honest with you, because there's so much change at the club. There's not a lot of strong characters there anymore, and just trying to build that team again. And getting characters of the likes of Scales in, who's not afraid to work. His game is going to progress more being around better players. I think his attitude towards the game is certainly going to help the players in the dressing room that he's going to now, because the guy is just a workhorse. Literally does not cause any problems, plays his game, just lets his game do his talking for him. And the one thing I do think about the signing itself, and I don't know if it's like common talk in Glasgow or whatever, but he's 6'2" or 6'3", and I've noticed ever since Ange has come in, a lot of the teams that we're playing have kind of targeted our fullback areas with long balls. So I'm thinking there's a number of reasons why I think he might be a good addition to the squad. One of them is because of his height and his presence. He's not afraid of a tackle. He'll leave his mark on people within the rules of the game, but he'll certainly let people know he's there. But he's also got this presence about him that it makes everyone around him play better. The second thing that I wanted to mention was because of the fact that Ange plays inverted fullbacks. The fact that Liam Scales initially started out as a centre half and then moved out the way, he's comfortable coming back in the way again. So he's comfortable in the middle of the pitch, which is where Greg Taylor seems to be spending a lot of his time. Obviously, that's under instruction from Ange, the way he likes to play the game. This guy's going to have no problem adapting to that. Absolutely none. I'm willing to stake my reputation on it.
No, you just have. You just have, mate. There's thousands of people watching this. You're not his agent, are you?
I'm not getting a cut of any of the fee, or I don't have any sort of vested interest in having Liam Scales go to Celtic. But I just feel that there is a lot of negativity around the League of Ireland. It's understandable because if people don't watch it, you're not familiar with the game itself. But over the last couple of years, especially with the way teams have progressed in Europe, teams are looking to get the ball down. They're looking to play. The old days of hoofing the ball and up to the big centre forward and hoping for the best. I mean, they're gone. The likes of Bowes, Dundalk, Rovers in Europe, we've basically punched above our weight. You see it with the national team now as well. Stephen Kenny's getting a lot of flack, but he's trying to play football the right way. He's trying to bring younger players in who are comfortable on the ball. They'll take it in bad positions where if they take a touch, they might get hammered, or he's trying to get that ethos into the game now. And I think a lot of people don't really understand it, or they want the win rather than the process. But I think the process is going to help to basically get our teams playing more regularly the way that we would want football to be played. And I think Shamrock Rovers have been doing that for a while. And certainly Liam Scales has been exemplary in that team. And I'm genuinely, I couldn't be happier for him to get his move.
Well, seeing as you're not his agent, I can ask you this question then. We didn't ask this to Paul earlier. Any weaknesses in his game? Anything obvious?
I mean, every player has his weakness. I think if there is any weakness, I think it might be his, I don't want to say fitness, because obviously there's going to be, the standards are going to go up from the League of Ireland to the SPL. I think that's where part of the betting in period will come from. I think he might not necessarily be up to speed with the speed of the game in Scotland straight away. But I think, what are we now? We're September. I think if you give him maybe 2 or 3 weeks, certainly a month, he's certainly going to be able to do that. Positionally, he's very good. I think some of that can be ironed out as well, because, as I said, he's switched positions. So he's basically taken a year to learn that role. Again, it might be something that needs to be worked on. Technically, he's very, very good. Not afraid to take the ball always looks for a short pass rather than a longer pass, up to a target man, which we don't necessarily have. I don't know if Giacomac is going to be that kind of player. It seems to be that he is going to be that kind of player, but it's not going to be a ball that Liam Scales looks for. He's going to look to get it under control, and he's going to look for the nearest man to him just to recycle the play and get it going. He gets up and down the line. I mean, I'm basing all of this on a League of Ireland player. Obviously, there's a step up in class, especially when you come to Europe and the games against Rangers and stuff like that. There's going to be a step up in class. But if any player, and he's been head and shoulders in the League of Ireland, best player to come out of the League of Ireland the last couple of years. And I know it's a step up, but I genuinely think he's the one player from the League of Ireland that could make that step up and not look out of place.
Pretty major statement you just made there about being, the best talent or the best player in the League of Ireland. I'm officially excited. You've done your job. Paul earlier in the video has done his job. Hopefully everyone watching this is now knows a bit more about Liam Scales and is quite excited about what he can bring to Celtic. Sean, it's been great to have you on, mate. Go and enjoy a bit of the sun in the States and that amazing lifestyle while I stick to bonny Scotland. Brilliant to have you on.
Absolutely. Anytime. If you need to have a chat about Liam Scales again, come back to me in a couple of months' time and we'll see how he's getting on. But I genuinely think he's going to surprise a lot of people in a good way.